Jeannie King, and I am welcoming you to the Tug True You group mini bite-sized Sunday service with a message and some music and some meditations available to you. And I'm really glad that you're here. So what I want to talk with you about today is the fact that we are approaching here in the United States Thanksgiving Day. And Thanksgiving Day is a big holiday, and it is centered mostly around food and family and fun and that sort of thing. And interestingly, the whole idea of setting aside a day for Thanksgiving didn't arrive until December 26, 1941, when President Roosevelt signed it into law, and it actually was enacted the following November. But it was an outgrowth of the fact that pilgrims came from England to settle in the New World, and the first winter they almost starved to death because they just didn't know how to take care of themselves. The Native Americans took pity on them and showed them how to plant corn using a dead fish in the bottom of the hole. And when the next winter rolled around, they actually had enough food. They knew how to hunt game, so they gave a big feast. The Native Americans and the Pilgrims, everyone partook in this because, hey, everyone has to eat. But I think that our nation is the very first one to ever set aside a day simply for gratitude. And I want to talk to you about gratitude. Gratitude, and even eating as an act of worship, and approaching life as an act of worship, and even as we get into the gift-giving time, money, and using money as an act of worship. So I want to ask you a question. To you, do you eat to live, or do you live to eat? And it's a fair question, because a lot of people just can't wait. They have this insatiable appetite. And we're going to go into that, why that probably is. And there is an act that we can approach our food, we can approach our life, we can approach our money with an act of gratitude and worship. And it changes everything. A friend of mine sent me a little video that was interestingly put out by the Liquor Board in Canada, and they do have Canadian Thanksgiving. And it shows the father and everyone seated around, and he's got a turkey, and he's getting ready to carve it. And he said, "We've got everything, and let's just eat." And so the wife goes, "Wait a minute." She said, "I can't eat any stuffing because carbs." And the daughter said, "Well, I'm not eating meat. I'm eating chicken and fish, but turkey, mm-mm." And the other one says, "Well, what about the butter on the mashed potatoes? I'm lactose intolerant." And anyhow, it's just one excuse after the other, just sucked all of the joy out of it. And he finally gets up and goes, "Oh, to hell with it." And he throws it against the wall and goes over to the liquor cabinet. Now, I am not telling you that that is the solution. But when did we get so crazy? Here in the United States, we are obsessed with food. We are obsessed with diets. We are obsessed with our bodies. We are obsessed with our money. And we approach it with like a fear and a loathing. And I know people who have different eating habits. I mean, there are people who are carnivores or omnivores. I'm an omnivore. I'll eat just about anything. And there are other people who are vegetarians. Some people are vegans, anyhow, it doesn't matter. But whatever you do and the way you eat it is the act of worship. If you are just stuffing it in, if you are just not paying any attention, if you're not even aware of what you're doing, you are not honoring the life force. And I don't know if you know this or not, but everything has energy and everything is energy. So if you approach your food with fear and loathing, guess what? The energy of your fear and loathing is going to be reflected back into the food, and it is going to deliver fear and loathing to you. And the same way with our money. Have you ever said, or have you ever heard anybody say, I can't even look at a piece of cake without gaining 10 pounds? And the universal mind of God always says yes and says, okay. If you say so, let's give you more of that. Or someone says, I never have enough money. There's always more month left over at the end of my money. And the universal mind of God says, okay, if you say so, let's give you more of that. So can you see if we are approaching life and food and money and health and our own well-being with a sense of gratitude and a sense of thanksgiving, that it changes everything? It changes everything. I am very aware that many people feel an innate sense of lack, that there's not enough. But I want to invite you to think about the abundance that is everywhere. There is more than enough. There is more than enough money, more than enough resources, more than enough water, more than enough food. And think about one little tiny mustard seed and how it grows into a big mustard plant. Or think about one tiny apple seed. You can plant one apple seed, it grows into a tree, it will produce hundreds and thousands of apples over its lifetime, and each of the apples will have hundreds of seeds. So we are talking hundreds of thousands of seeds and apples, and maybe millions of it, and each one carries within it the potential for a seed that grows into another apple tree. Now, it's so interesting in the Bible, and I want to read this to you. In Matthew 6:24, it says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes?" If you want to get a good laugh, look at a magazine, especially around the holidays, and you're going to see on the magazine cover, "Lose 20 pounds by the end of the year or the holidays." And it's going to have this big, the latest diet craze. And right beside it is a big sugary cake. It says, "Get the recipe and these, more like these, inside." That's kind of crazy, isn't it? But then in Matthew, and this is a book that is just totally filled with good stuff, in 15:18, it tells us to not worry about what we're putting into our mouth, but rather what comes out. It says, "But the things that come out of a person's mouth come from the heart, and these defile them." Now, if you've been listening to our 2 Minutes That Can Change Your Life YouTube messages Monday through Saturday, you will know that we talk about gratitude, we talk about attitude, we talk about blessing things. And there is such a thing called Kirlian photography. And the photography actually captures the essence or the energy field around living things. And what they did is these photographers took this technology and took a picture of regular bread, and it just looked like regular bread. And then they blessed the bread and took a picture of it, and the blessed bread actually sparkled. It changed the energy of it. So I want you to think about the whole abundance and the whole massive amounts of energy that is available to us in everything. And that reminds me of a story in the Bible that is pretty well known by everyone. It's called the loaves and the fishes. And it talks about Jesus being out and addressing a group of about 5,000 people on a hillside. And nobody wanted to leave, but they hadn't planned on being there all day long, and there was no food. But one little boy had a basket that his mom had made him, and it had 5 loaves of bread and 2 little fishes. And Jesus recognized him, and he said, "Bring that here and let me bless it." And Jesus blessed the bread and the fishes, and he began to pass it out, and his disciples handed it out, and it multiplied, and it multiplied, and it multiplied. And before you know it, everyone was full, and there were baskets of this left over. So with that in mind, I would like to bring in Cindy Jordan. She has a really fun, upbeat song that she has written, and it's called "Loaves and Fishes."
A long time ago, there was a boy who went to hear Jesus speak. But before he left, his mother fixed a basket of food to eat. She fixed him loaves and fishes, loaves and fishes, loaves and fishes to eat that day. 5 loaves of bread. talked for hours and hours, and nobody wanted to leave. The apostles found that only the boy had anything to eat. He had the loaves and fishes, loaves and fishes, loaves and fishes to eat that day. 5 loaves of bread and 2 little fishes, loaves and fishes to eat. Jesus said, please bring me the boy to feed this hungry crowd. We'll fill their baskets full of his food. There'll be plenty to go around. We'll feed them loaves and fishes, loaves and fishes, loaves and fishes to eat that day. 5 loaves of bread and 2 little fishes, loaves and fishes to eat. The loaves and fishes multiplied, and everyone was full. And the boy was so proud that he could help with this wonderful miracle. They ate the loaves and fishes, loaves and fishes, loaves and fishes to eat that day. 5 loaves of bread and 2 little fishes, loaves and fishes to eat. It was loaves and fishes, loaves and fishes, loaves and fishes to eat that day. 5 loaves of bread and 2 little fishes, loaves and fishes to eat.
Wasn't that fun? Now look, I don't care if you believe if this is real or not. That is immaterial. You can believe whatever you want. I think it's entirely possible that by blessing the energy in this food and by giving thanks ahead of time, that it did multiply. But it doesn't matter what you believe. It only matters what you believe about yourself. There is a way of approaching our food as a form of worship. Do you have a fear of food? And let's talk about money too. Do you have a fear of money? Because I can tell you, if you have fear and loathing around food, the fear and loathing that you are emitting is going to be captured by that food, and it is going to be held in the essence of that food. And when you ingest it, your cells and your whole bodily functions will ingest that fear and loathing. Same thing with money. Now, when I was a little kid, my mom had a beautiful friend who was from a little town in Oklahoma, and she was one of 12 children or something like that. And she was a beauty queen in this little town. And she didn't ever really have enough to eat. They were dirt poor, and they were always scrabbling around for food and for resources. And she told my mom, and I can remember hearing this story, is the only time they had ice cream was when it was the 4th of July and the elders would make homemade ice cream. And it was such a huge treat that they would just gorge themselves on this ice cream. They would just eat and eat and eat. And then they would run out in the field, and I know this is gross, but they would throw up and they would come back and eat more. Now, what this set up was this fear that they weren't going to get enough, and they weren't going to get it when they wanted it. And as she grew older and as she got married and had, money and all of this, she was obsessed with food, and she gained weight, and so she was always on a diet. And one time she told my mom, who was just the skinny little thing, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I have been living on saltine crackers for a week in order to lose weight. And I just finally thought to look at this, and the calories that are in this, I could have been eating cake." But she was eating crackers and depriving herself. The same way with people who grow up with no money. Many times people who grow up with no money feel like they have got to hang on to it. They're fearful of it. They're afraid that someone's going to take it from them. Or they go the opposite way and they just spend, and they try to comfort themselves with the things that money can buy. And they are not in the gratitude, they're in their fear. And if you are hoarding your money, or if you are approaching money with fear and loathing and anger, it's going to push the money away from you, because money has energy and is an energy form. Who wants to stay where they are hated and feared? Nobody that I know. So I want you to think about, when you are coming into this holiday season, how are you going to approach gift giving? Are you going to be afraid? Are you going to try to get the bang for your buck? And I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting a good bargain, but your attitude is going to determine everything. It's going to determine your outcomes. And I am certain that if you will approach things with love and with gratitude, things will change. A friend of mine posted the other day that when she was growing up, her family was very poor, but one set of grandparents were quite wealthy. And they would get on a plane and they would go somewhere exotic and come back. And she processed this and she was like, I want to live like that. Now, she didn't get in her judgment and fear about it. She just said, that's the way I want to live. And sure enough, she and her husband have created a life where they have a building, where a business, where they go to all these places all over the world. They get to travel to exotic places and get paid to do it. And she appreciates everything, not just the great hotels and the great experiences, but she appreciates the trees and the scenery and the water and the love and the food and the laughter and the people that they meet. And can you see how that changes everything? Now, I didn't grow up with any money either. I was one of 6 children. And, we never went hungry, but sometimes the meals were kind of boring. And we had to make do with hand-me-downs and all of that. But somehow I got it in my head that if I was grateful for what I had, and if I gave myself permission to have what I really wanted, that things could change. And I didn't do anything. I didn't set out to well, how can I get this? I just got in my gratitude. And as a result, I have gone on many private corporate jets. I have flown to many exotic places in the world. I have been in and stayed as a treasured guest in millionaires' homes. I've been on yachts. I have been treated to dinners that for 4 people cost $700 with the finest food and the finest wine. But I am also grateful for everything. I'm grateful for our little simple meals here. I'm grateful for whatever we have. I'm grateful for my car. I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful for my food. So my question to you is, as you approach, especially this holiday season, how are you going to live your life? Are you going to fill it up with gratitude and love and bless it and let it expand? Or are you going to clamp down? Are you going to be afraid? Are you going to fear it? I know people who are spiritual, and I don't mean to say that they're not spiritual, but in their spiritual being, they seem to think that poverty is a good thing. And I can tell you, poverty is a bad thing. Poverty is a bad thing, because if you are poor, you don't have any money to share with anybody. You can't pay employees who take that money that you pay them and they go out and get their children's teeth fixed or give them dancing lessons or buy a new car or a new house. You are depriving not only yourself, but you are depriving the world if you are not willing to be a conduit for wealth and for money and for abundance. Think about that. I know people who say, oh, I just want, I don't need to be rich. Really? Okay, don't be rich. Oh, I don't need to have anything more than just to get by. Really? I want to give you a little clue here. People give, as an example, Mother Teresa of Calcutta as saying, she was poverty. She took a vow of poverty and, she did without No, she did not do without. Everything she needed was provided. She flew on private jets to see heads of states. She went everywhere. She oversaw a multi-million-dollar budget. Now, granted, she helped the poor in India and other places, but if you think for a minute she didn't have money consciousness, you really need to rethink this. So, in conclusion, I just want to encourage you that everything that we do can be an act of worship. Eating can be an act of worship. Drinking, walking, waking up, getting in our car, talking with other people, spending money, doing things that make us feel more abundant and more alive. And I don't care what your level of abundance is. I'm not the wealthiest person in the world, but I have everything I need and more than enough. And I am grateful for every little thing I have. Now, I want to invite you to explore our website. We have a wonderful series of meditations by our own Susanna Cox. Just look for the link that says meditations. And this week she did a really short, sort of an instructional sort of thing to make us more aware. It's not actually a meditation, but it is a precursor to a meditation. And she is a student of Deepak Chopra and going through a whole training program. And she calls this STOP. Now, it's not like stop, like that. It is bigger than that. It is an awareness tool. So I invite you to go check out our meditations. I also want you to know that we have a whole children's program that we are working on getting uploaded. If you've got children and grandchildren, we're putting together, and already Cindy Jordan has a whole group of children's materials, including coloring books and a workshop that is called Walking with Jesus and songs. So you're going to want to hang in there with us. And we're only 6 weeks old, and I think that we've come a long way. If you are enjoying these and if you are getting some good stuff out of this, please share it with other people. You have no idea who needs this, and it's not up to you to decide who needs it. Just throw it out there. Just seed the world with what we are doing. Lift people up, give them access to these spiritual messages, to these 2 minutes that can change your life, to our songs, to our meditations. I would love to hear from you. Let us know what your experiences are, or if you have prayer requests, or if you have something that you'd like to share with us. Send it to trueyougroup@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. Also, if you are enjoying this and this is meaningful to you and you would like to support our work monetarily, you can do that by hitting the donate button. And a gift of any size is so gratefully appreciated. If you want to do a monthly donation, you can do it either through PayPal, or you can go to patreon.com, patreon.com/True You Group. I'm so grateful for you. I bless you. I love you. I behold the Christ in you. And I see you abundantly and beautifully blessed in all things. I know that you are worthy. And my request is that you know you are worthy too. Thank you for joining us at Tug True You Group. We will be uploading our daily 2 minutes that can change your life again, starting tomorrow through Saturday. And then I'll see you here next Sunday. Thank you so much.